Hi, I'm Michelle and I've mastered my emotions. Are you ready to figure out how? And while I've got you here with your hand on your phone, go ahead and hit subscribe so you won't miss another episode. Welcome to the Cut the Stress Show, formerly the I Cut the Mustard Show, where you'll learn how to stop stressing, stop stress eating, and finally create the body that you can enjoy forever. If you're ready to lighten up, pun intended, then you're in the right place because you shouldn't have to hate creating the body that you love. Hi, welcome back to the podcast. Today we're continuing our exploration of the Freed method, the way to find stress freedom from our thoughts and emotions that build up inside of us. So far we've talked about finding the fun by just letting go of the ideal of I was about to do my southern there, willpower. The idea that willpower is what gets us where we want to go. So we let go of that and we find the fun instead. We've talked last episode about the power of our thoughts, recognizing our thoughts and editing them to create the things that we want in our lives and how powerful that can be. And today we want to dive into emotions and into mastering our emotions. Doesn't that sound fabulous? So first, let's talk about what are emotions. I've been thinking about this recently as my kids are getting a little bit older, and my middle child, who's just turned 6, he is so hard to talk to about his feelings. And I can just, as a coach, I can see that he's like repressing his emotions, and I can kind of guess at what some of the thoughts are that he's having. I can see like these little patterns that are going on in his life, but I sit down and try to talk to him about it, and he's so resistant. He just does not want to talk to me about his emotions. And I feel like it's probably because he doesn't even know what they are. And as a mom, I'm kind of thinking, how do I even teach my kids what emotions are? And how did we even learn, like, what's the difference between anger and frustration and confusion and anxiety and stress? And there are just so many complex emotions in our life and in our body. And I feel like even as adults, we don't even know what all of that is or what's going on. So today we're going to try to dive into that complex realm here. But emotions, the way that we're going to define them is just vibrations in your body that come from your thoughts. So there's a difference between emotions and sensations. I'm just going to go over that here because I think it's a little bit confusing sometimes. But emotions are things that are coming from your thoughts to your body. They're creating a vibration. So maybe someone says something mean to me and I think, oh, they're being so mean. So I have that thought about it. So it goes from my head, and then my body is starting to feel angry, right? And I'm getting tense and I'm having all those vibrations, and those physical sensations are happening from my emotions. So sensations, though, are those physical, I'm going to use feelings again, but because in our language, we use feelings for both of these, right? So the sensations are like the physical feelings that we're getting that the emotions produce. Or another way to think of it is sensations are things that come from our body to our brain. So you touch something that's hot, and then you jumps to your brain and says, whoa, that's hot, right? Or maybe you're feeling sick, you're feeling nauseous. So you have this sensation, this physical feeling in your body, and it travels to your brain and lets your brain know that you're having this physical feeling. And it's kind of this circle, honestly, because, this happened with me in my digestion, right? I had pain in my gut, and it came to my brain and said, oh, there's some pain there. And then I had a thought about it, which created an emotion. Maybe I was afraid and I thought, oh my goodness, what's going on? What's wrong with me? And so then I started getting scared and anxious. And so then it created more sensations in my body where I was so stressed out that I was making myself sick. So they're very connected and therefore sometimes confusing. But what we're talking about is emotions, the vibrations that come from the thoughts in our head, and they just create a physical reaction in our body, but it comes from our head. Okay, so we have control over those emotions. And when you put it that way, it doesn't sound so scary, but many times we do not process our emotions, right? We repress our emotions. So this episode, we're going to talk about embracing our emotions. But before we do that, what does it really mean to repress our emotions? So whenever we're feeling emotion, a lot of times we do one of three things. Number one, we resist that emotion. So we push it away. We don't want it to be around. I find that for me, this is true whenever I'm jealous or angry or judgmental, and many things that because I have those emotions, I feel like bad people have those emotions. Bad people are angry, right? Or they're jealous, and that's what bad people do. So I don't want to be associated with those kind of feelings, so I just pretend like I don't have them, right? Or maybe it's something little and you don't feel like you should be angry about it. So you kind of push it away, you resist that emotion. So this happens a lot with my kids. Sometimes I think, oh, I should be happy today. I should be happy to be a mom today. I shouldn't be angry, or these little things shouldn't be bothering me right now. So I push it down. So then the next thing that we do with emotions can happen after that, and that is to react to them. So because for me anyway, because I have pushed it down so long, then I can only hold so much. I've got to release some of that tension. So then I react and I start yelling at my children, or I just stomp my feet and fume out of the room maybe. Or my second child does this a lot, where again, he just doesn't understand his emotions and what's going on. So then he starts like being naughty and grabbing stuff away, taking stuff away from his sister so he can get attention, or he freaks out and he screams really, really loud. Wow, he's got some vocals. So he screams at the top of his lungs. He stomps away and runs to his room and cries, right? So all these things, this reacting to the emotion, it's releasing tension that has built up from your emotion, but it isn't actually processing the emotion. It's not embracing the emotion. It's kind of just this overflow or this explosion, right? So that's the second thing that we often do whenever we have emotions. And the third thing that we do is to avoid them, right? Which kind of sounds like resisting. They're very similar, but avoiding often means that we go do something else instead. So maybe we're feeling really stressed out, so then we need to go have a treat and calm down, right? Or we're feeling really stressed out, so we're going to sit and watch TV. So there's nothing wrong with going to eat a snack. There's nothing wrong with watching TV. There's nothing wrong with going on a walk. But if you're doing it to avoid something else and it has a negative consequence for you, then you might want to rethink that, right? So if we're avoiding our emotions, that's also not embracing them, and it's not processing them. Okay, so I'm going to give the example of an interaction with a friend so that maybe you can see sometimes when we're talking about emotions, it doesn't seem like that big of a deal. Like resisting them, reacting, avoiding, maybe that doesn't seem like such a big deal. Why is it a problem? But if we think about it in more of a physical way, like let's say that someone came, emotions, they come and they touch us in a way, right? We feel them, and it's a physical thing that we're feeling. So let's just use the example of if a friend came and touched our arm. We can feel that. It's a feeling, right? A sensation in this sense. But some friend came and touched our arm. So we can resist, right? We can push that arm away. We can react. Maybe we can, punch that friend for touching us, right? Or we can avoid, maybe just go cold, stone cold, and turn away and don't talk to them, right? But in all those three scenarios, you can see how that feeling isn't going away. It's still there. Them touching us is still there. Nothing happened by you avoiding and punching and reacting. It didn't really help the situation, right? And that's true with our emotions as well. And so I started this podcast. I titled this podcast, Master Your Feelings. And I think a lot of times when we think about mastering our feelings, we're thinking we're going to control those feelings. I'm never going to get angry. I'm never going to be sad, or I'm never going to be jealous again. So we're coming at it in this resistance, avoidant, reactant kind of way, right? We've been taught all of our lives to resist our emotions because there may be a bad thing, like stop crying or don't be angry or whatever. We're like, a lot of times in interactions growing up, we've been told to not have emotion. So we're used to resisting them. And we think that mastering our feelings means that basically we don't have them anymore. We're not going to have those negative ones anymore. But what I want you to realize is that instead of pushing them down, controlling them per se, mastering your feelings is actually when you embrace them. Mastering your feelings means that you are able to feel them and not let them control you. So the point isn't to feel better all the time, it's just to feel. So mastering your feelings means that you're going to be a master at accepting them and letting them flow through you and not letting them take control over your life. So how do we do this? How do we embrace our emotions? How do we stop avoiding and resisting and reacting and instead feel our feelings so that they don't bother us anymore and create these negative results that we want? And before I tell you the how, I just want to go into why it's important to master your feelings, to really embrace them. I'm going to take overeating for my example, because whenever I'm avoiding my feelings, then I often, and a lot of my clients also, we go to eat or we stay at the table and eat a little longer so we don't have to deal with something else that's going to be after lunch, right? So that's avoiding our feelings or trying to minimize them by distracting ourselves with food. So if we can truly pause and recognize our feelings and feel our feelings and become master over those, being great at just letting them flow through us, then in those moments that you want to go towards food, you can tell yourself to pause and give yourself a few minutes to master your feelings, to feel and embrace those feelings. And then by the end of that, you probably won't even want the food. You won't need the food. And it's not going to make you feel better anyway, which we'll talk about in the next episode. But okay, so here's my favorite way to master your feelings, to embrace your feelings. I've got two ways. Number one, I shared in one of the first episodes together, but I call it wonder. That's how we remember what you're supposed to do. But the idea is to just get curious about your emotion and then kind of go inside yourself and feel that emotion. And this takes a lot of practice and a little bit of concentration. It's like not as easy as, again, it's a muscle that you're not used to working, so it's weak. But as you practice, you're going to get better at it. So I'm just going to go over that one real quick. Wonder, W, is you just simply ask yourself, what am I feeling? O is observe that feeling. So what am I feeling? Pause and observe so that you can answer yourself. So N is to name the feeling. So WON, what am I feeling? Observe that feeling, name the feeling. Okay, so because once we name it, we can kind of understand what's going on, right? And it gives you some power back. So a lot of times I'm frustrated about something someone said or a situation that I'm having, and that's what leads me to overeat. So if I sit back and I say, well, what am I feeling? Observe, okay, now I'm naming it. This is frustration. Then it's kind of more objectified that way. So this is frustration. So D is to describe it. So describe it to yourself in detail. Frustration. What does that feel like? What is the sensations that it's creating in my body? Is it tightness in my chest? Is it maybe, am I feeling antsy, like I'm jumping around? My body wants to jump around. Maybe it's a tightness in my throat. So I'm just going in there with curiosity and I'm feeling that. So number one, or wonder, being what am I feeling? Observe it, name it, describe it. E is to embrace it, meaning just accept that it's part of who you are. Yes, maybe you don't even know why you're frustrated, but just accepting that frustration as part of life and being okay with it. Like, hey, I'm a human. Of course I'm frustrated. Maybe you know what thoughts are causing this frustration. And of course I'd be feeling frustrated. I think that so-and-so was totally mean to me just now, or did that thing they weren't supposed to. So of course I'm frustrated. Or I feel like I've tried my best and it's still not working. Of course I'm frustrated. Any human who is having that thought would be frustrated right now. So you just let yourself be frustrated because it's okay. A feeling's just a feeling. It doesn't mean anything about you. Just because you're feeling bad doesn't mean you are bad. I love to say that to myself. Just because you're feeling bad doesn't mean you are bad. And it's really important to separate those. So just embracing it, being okay with having whatever feeling possible, knowing that it doesn't really say anything about you, good or bad. It just means you're human and you have feelings. So wonder again is, what am I feeling? Observe that feeling, name the feeling, describe the feeling, embrace the feelings, and now you can release it or resolve it, right? You can just let it go. Maybe you decide that after you've felt it and you described it, then you can just let it go because it's not a big deal. Or maybe at that point you decide that it's still festering, it still has something to teach you. So then you go into the thought work and you ask yourself, what am I thinking? And you kind of move through that direction. So this is getting to be a mouthful, but that's one way that I master my feelings, is to go through that process of just describing it and identifying it and letting it be there, telling myself it's totally okay, right? Like just embracing it. And another way that I love to feel my feelings is through emotional freedom tapping, which you can find videos online, but it's just this tapping on your acupuncture, like energy points in your body. So there's just natural places where the energy flows through your body and it connects in certain areas on your body. And when you tap those areas, it's just very calming and soothing. So I love to do that exercise because it gives me something to do. I'm very fidgety, and if I've got something to do while I'm thinking about the emotion and asking myself those questions and just letting myself feel it, then I find that I get a lot more progress that way. But again, these are all the things that I do with you one-on-one in the Stress Freedom Program. So if you're interested in that program, go ahead and hit up the show notes below, listen to the outro, go check it out and see if working together is something that you'd want to do with me so that we can go through these together, because I can keep lecturing at you and I feel like I keep saying the same concepts over and over because our brain just needs a few times to hear them for them to click. But like I said before, defining your support, being around somebody intimately who's already where you're at or already where you want to be is going to 10x your results and make it so that you make so much more progress so much faster than you can all by yourself, just drudging through these thoughts and emotions one at a time all by yourself. So go ahead and check out the show notes, and I will see you next week, my friends. Have a great one. Bye-bye. Are you ready to lose weight, take control of food, and create the body and life of your dreams? Then it's time to check out my Stress Freedom Program. In this 12-week program, you'll find the confidence, tools, and support you need to finally get the results you've been looking for. Check it out at coaching.michellevilsek.com.